All right, Libra, this is your mid-January 2021 love horoscope and taroscope. I'm Ryan with Arrows of Love. Welcome back to my channel. First and foremost, if you like these videos and would like to see more of them, please click that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel and it is much appreciated. All right, Libra, we always look to the sun first to see where your focus is at for the month. The sun is in Capricorn. This is your fourth house. Capricorn is 4 signs past Libra. And the fourth house is always about home. It's about the family. It's about foundations. And it's about the mother. So until January 19th, this is where your focus is primarily going to be. It's about the review and the focus of your foundations and the home. The sun is going to move into your 5th house of Aquarius on January 19th, and it's going to be there until February 18th. The 5th house is a romance house. It's also about children. It's about fun and games and sports, and it's also about investment. So there is a financial aspect to this 5th house. The thing is with Aquarius coming up in February is there's going to be a stellium of planets in Aquarius. And a stellium means 3 or more planets sitting in one sign. In fact, in February, the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus will all be in Aquarius. And that is mega power sitting in that 5th house. And we actually haven't seen something like this since 1960s. And if you think about what was happening in like 1961, 1962, this is when the civil rights movement was really starting to pick up speed. So we might be seeing some themes running true that were happening in the 1960s, also during this February timeframe. We'll get more to that next month, though. Venus, the planet of love, is also sitting in Capricorn until February 1st. And Capricorn is all about stability. It's about long-term relationships. It's about loyalty and faithfulness and building solid foundations of relationships, slowly but surely, that can endure the test of time with patience. So to fully harness the love planet over the next couple of weeks, and at least until February 1st, you're going to want to be patient and build steady foundations with love if you're single, or if you're partnered up. Again, go back to basics. What is it that you attracted to your partner to begin with? And build those steady foundations so your partnership can last the test of time. Mercury, which is the messenger planet, this is what is on your mind, is in Aquarius. Again, this is your 5th house of romance, fun and games, children, and investments. Mercury is going to have an extended stay in Aquarius due to its retrograde cycle from January 30th through February 21st. And it's going to be there a little bit after February 21st as well. But you're going to be reviewing these themes, the 5th house, romance in particular. It could be investments as well, because there is a financial aspect to this through that 3-week period. So remember, with Mercury retrograde, it's all about slowing down. It's about review. It's about reassessment. It can also represent communication, short distance travel. So just take things slow. Things are going to be off. Technology is going to be off those couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so. And especially in Aquarius, this is thinking outside of the box. So you might be thinking about romance a little bit differently during this time. The dispositor for January, however, and it's going to be a tense month, and I'm telling all signs this, is about Mars. And I've talked about Mars in previous videos. Mars was in Aries for an extended stay due to its retrograde cycle back in 2020. It was retrograding through Aries from August, September, October, and that was sitting in your 7th house of partnership. So very well could have happened that some partnerships could have ended during this time, a reassessment of sorts of one-on-one relationships, marriages, and legal contracts. So that could have been a very tense time for you, Aries in particular. Mars now is going to move into Taurus, and it's been in Taurus since January 6th. So, January 7th, about. January 6th was an important day. Obviously, we know what happened in Washington during that time. That's when Mars was at the very last degree of Aries, which it rules Aries, and that's called the anaretic degree. Mars is the god of war. It can be aggressive on the negative side. It can represent impulsive action. On the positive side, it represents action. It's what gets us up in the morning. It's your vitality. It gives you your get up and go. But Mars is now in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, which Venus also rules Libra. It's a co-ruled sign. So there is some connection here to you, Libra. And the 8th house is ostensibly about endings. So it's about going deep. The 8th house is also ruled by Pluto, which is a scorpionic house. And it's about sex. It's about transformation. It's about taxes and insurance. It's ostensibly about the transformation process. It's the death and rebirth process. So you're going to be going through quite a bit of endings, possibly big endings, and new beginnings until March. That's when Mars is transiting through Taurus. The 8th house is also about lump sum, so there could be some good news on that front. It's also about other people's money. So look for those themes through March as it relates to you, Libra. But just know that Mars, over the course of the rest of January, is going to be making a series of very challenging squares over to the planets sitting in Aquarius, which is your 5th house. So again, for you, Libra, this has an element of tense romance, tense in relationships. Mars in the 8th represents sex and intimacy. Your 5th house has to deal with romance. So you could be going through some major changes during this time. It's also about psychology and going deep. It's the most intense house in the zodiac. So this is going to be a tense time for you. So be sure you are getting plenty of exercise. You're getting outside. You're doing yoga and meditation to take down some of the mental energy and dealing with excessive physical energy. So let's begin. January 13th. Mars sitting in that 5th house of romance, fun and games, children, and investments. Mars is in your 8th house. Let me back up. Mars is in the 8th house of transformation, death and rebirth, lump sums, psychology, secrets, making a square to stern taskmaster Saturn, which is in that 5th house of Aquarius, and that's romance, children, fun and games, and investment. So again, there's this element of finance underneath this particular square. So if things are a little bit tense on that finance front, just know that it will eventually come to pass through March, but it's going to be tense all through January, February. Mars is the action card, right? It wants to go forward. It wants to make things happen. Saturn, on the other hand, is going to be reviewing those foundations. It is the yellow light and even the red light saying you need to slow down. You need to be reviewing the foundation of your relationships, the foundation by which you have intimate relationships, other people's money, investment. And then there's a massive element of authority and power dynamics all through this day of January 13th. So again, it's endings and big beginnings on January 13th. And on top of that, there's going to be a new moon in Capricorn. And the new moon marks the new lunar cycle. So that means the moon is crossing or conjoining the sun in Capricorn. And Capricorn is your 4th house of foundations, family, and home. So you very well could be reviewing the foundations of your relationship, the foundations of your intimacy, by which if you have children, you might be reviewing your relationship with your children or your investments. It's also a day that secrets may be revealed. So the sun and the moon are the luminaries of our solar system. And when they conjoin, and it's going to conjoin Pluto. Pluto's sitting in that 4th house as well. It's going to be 1 degree away from this new moon. So in astrology, that is indicative of secrets revealed. Pluto is the underworld. It's things unseen. It's also the death and rebirth process. And if you take out the house system, just as it relates to you, Libra, the 10th house of Capricorn represents governments. So when you see things like this, especially when the sun and the moon are right next to Pluto like this, we could see the death of solar figures. These are mentors, people in the public. You can draw connections as you will here, but this is a very intense day. The good news is love planet Venus, stabilizing Venus, is in Capricorn in that 4th house of home, family, foundations, and the mother's involved in this too, is going to be making a harmonious trine, those are blessings, over to Uranus, which is sitting in Taurus. That's also in your 8th house of endings, lump sums, sex, taxes, and death. And so again, this is good. This could be an amorphous love too. Uranus, Venus brings in people from foreign lands, people that you're not necessarily accustomed to, people beyond your ordinary type. So if you're out looking and you're single, you could be attracted to someone that you wouldn't necessarily go for, but it could almost feel magnetic. But just know that Uranus is also rebellion. It's also represented by independence. It's shock and awe, and it's change. So it's a little bit unstable. This could be a short-lived love if you're out there looking and you meet someone around that January 13th timeframe. Moving forward, January 17th, now Jupiter, the planet of expansion. It's the great benefic of our solar system, brings gifts and luck. Sitting in that 5th house, that's very good for you, Libra, because that's romance. It's going to expand that house over the next year as it transits through Aquarius. Now it's going to square Uranus, which is sitting in that 8th house of psychology, going deep, sex, taxes, and death, lump sums. These are outer planets, so they might not necessarily affect you personally, but on the global scale, we could see some innovation. Uranus represents innovation in technology. We could see some things come out in music and some great progress forward on the innovation front. So look to what's happening around January 17th. The next very stressful day is January 20th, and this is Inauguration Day. And now Mars, transiting through Taurus, is going to align or conjoin Uranus, and the moon is going to be very close. And the moon represents the public tone, it represents emotion, foundations, mother, the family. So this is going to be an explosive day. It's going to be extremely tense. It's happening in the 8th house. Again, this is the 8th house of endings, going deep, psychology, sex, taxes, and death, and lump sums sitting in Taurus. So it has an element of security and finance here, but it also has an element of major endings. Again, be sure you're taking the energy down that day. It's going to be a tense day overall. Be sure you're watching what's happening in the news. But anything related to 8th house matters very well could come up for you personally, Libra. And I'd say just get as much exercise as possible and tap into that Capricorn energy, because that's where Venus is sitting. And if you want to think about Capricorn's about discipline, responsibility, taking the high road, and perseverance. And that's what's going to be needed all through January, because it's just a very tense month. And it's not just you, it's for everyone. We're all being hit by these challenging squares, just in different places in our personal lives. For you, it happens to be that 8th house, which is the most intense. The good news is that, Libra, you are diplomatic, you're ruled by the scales. You can balance this out, and you can find productive outlets for this intense energy in your life. January 23rd, now Mars, sitting in that 8th house, is going to square Jupiter, the planet of expansion. And Jupiter is a benefic planet, but when it's aspecting any malefic planet, in Mars and ancient astrology is malefic, this can produce some premature action. So be sure you think before you leap. Jupiter sitting in that 5th house of romance, Mars sitting in that 8th house of sex, taxes, and death, intimacy, lump sums, endings. Again, it's going to be pretty intense, and just think before you leap. Be sure you watch your words on the 23rd. But the good news again is Venus, the god of love, is going to be making a sextile, and sextiles always represent opportunity, but the opportunity has to be found. You have to go out and look for it. And it's going to be making a sextile to Neptune, and Neptune, Venus, can be very romantic, can be very dreamy, extremely imaginative and creative. So if you're in a creative career, this would be great for coming up with new ideas. And Neptune is sitting in your 6th house of work, health, routine, and service. So that's where you could find this great opportunity. And Venus sitting in that 4th house of foundations and family, the two combined, that's great for coming up with new plans, laying new foundations in your work and health sector. So be sure you're watching that day. Don't take any premature moves. It's going to be a tense day. And the intensity continues on January 28th. Now Venus, traveling in your 4th house of Capricorn, foundations, home, family, mother, is going to conjoin with Pluto. And this, again, in your 4th house. Venus-Pluto is great for passion. It's magnetic energy. Pluto represents power, it's magnetism. You could be just instinctively drawn to someone if you're out there looking right now, or even if you're in a partnership. You could reignite that flame, so to speak, on January 28th. The caveat here is there's also intense energy with Mars. Now Mars is going to be squaring the Sun, which is going to be in Aquarius on the 28th, in that 5th house of romance, kids, investments. And the Sun is going to be opposing the Moon, which is sitting in your 11th house. That's in Leo. Leo's about the future, hopes, wishes, and dreams, technology, innovation, and friend groups, social networks. So, Mars is going to be making 2 squares to the Sun and the Moon, the luminaries, and the luminaries are going to be opposing each other. It's going to be an intense day. Full moons represent culminations and endings. Venus, Pluto, Pluto represents the death and rebirth process with Venus. So this could point to endings, unfortunately, in relationships, or it could point to a new beginning. But it's going to be an intense day regardless of what happens. Now, January 30th, Mercury, this is what is on your mind. These are your thoughts. Business savvy Mercury, sitting in that 5th house of investments, children, romance, is going to station direct and go through its retrograde cycle from January 30th through February 21st. And that's in Aquarius. So, you're going to be thinking very, very differently about the romance sector, through February, starting in January there. And this one, again, is going to be intense. And during that time, there's going to be a stellium of planets sitting in Aquarius. So it's going to be intense energy on that 5th house. There could be possible opportunities for investment. Invest wisely. But again, you're going to be reviewing that romance department, short-term romance, children, fun. This is also the department of past life credit. So if you did things correctly in your past life, this is where you get credit for it. But remember, with Mercury retrograde, take things slow. It's a time of a reassessment. It's a time of review. Take your time with traveling. Communication is going to be off. It always is during Mercury retrograde. So, again, get as much exercise as possible. Get outside if you can, and find creative outlets for excessive energy, because it's just going to be an extremely intense month, Libra. All right, so let's pull some cards for romance. I have the romance angels. Remember, with the tarot, these messages will not resonate with all of you. This is a general reading. Take the messages that resonate with you, leave the rest. Check out your ascendant, your moon, and your Venus signs, because that will sometimes speak more to you depending on what's happening in your natal chart. All right, so Libra, let's pull some cards. Let's see what's happening with you. Stay optimistic about your love life. Positive thinking and faith will bring you romance. So Mars, having traveled through that 7th house for 6 months during 2020, probably really shake things up on the partnership front. I wouldn't be surprised if there have been some major endings in partnerships. The angels are asking you to stay optimistic. You got to be positive thinker. And generally speaking, Libra, you are. You're the sign of balance and harmony. You are the diplomat. You generally keep pretty positive. Religious factors. Your love life is influenced by religious upbringing and spiritual path. That's an interesting card. The 8th house, which we talked a lot about, that's Taurus. So that's where Mars, Uranus, and the moon will be. That's January 13th and the 20th. Those are intense days. That 8th house is the underworld. That's psychology. There's an element of spirituality and death and rebirth. It's the transformation process. So there might be something here asking you to change something on those personal beliefs. Or perhaps it's a partner. We'll see. All right, so let's pull some cards from the tarot. Libra. All right. Eight of Wands. We just talked about the 8th house. 8 of Wands are the arrows of love. This is also the 5th house of romance. The Hermit. This is going deep. This is Capricorn. This is Pluto. This is psychology. And so we'll get more to that. Knight of Pentacles, possibly an offer. Starting a new course. Death. Yep, this is Pluto. 3 Wands. And 4 Swords. Okay. So Libra, there's definitely been some endings for you on the romance front. So the angels, again, are asking you to stay optimistic about your love life. You got to be positive so you can bring in a new romance. It looks like to me, with the 8th house here, 8 of Wands, these are the arrows of love, but like I said, you're probably looking for this. You want it all, right? You want to have those happy feelings. The 8th house represents intimacy. The 5th house represents romance. So this is what you're trying to manifest. And you're going deep. You're probably doing a major review of this area. The Hermit is about going deep. It's about going into the cave, reviewing psychology. How do you view intimacy? How do you treat your intimate partners and your romantic partners? How do you approach love? This is what it's asking you, to go real deep. The 8th house is about psychology, rethinking your personal beliefs. And you're going to come out sure-footed. The Knight of Pentacles moves slow. We talked about Venus and Capricorn, building steady foundations by which relationships can last the test of time. You can't jump into the sack right away, Libra, or else things don't work out. You have to be sure-footed. You have to know what it is you want. This is also about self-worth. What are you worthy of? Are you bringing in people that are worthy of your love? And there's something here about personal beliefs. There's a religious factor. Your love life is being influenced by religious upbringing or a spiritual path. So perhaps you're on a different path. The 8th house brings up spirituality, psychic downloads. And something has to come to an end. Something on those personal beliefs has to come to an end, or it did, because the Death card, it's not necessarily a physical death, although we talked about that. That January 13th time frame, unfortunately, just the luminaries are shining a light on Pluto. This represents Pluto. This represents Scorpio. This is transformation. So something has to be let go. But for some of you, there could, not necessarily you, but there's an element of endings just generally with the 8th house. And I have to tell you that that's a part of my job as a tarot consultant and an astrologer. So some of this is going to be mental processes, the way you view romance, your personal beliefs. Others, there could be a physical death somewhere, possibly in the family. But again, that's not for all of you. I don't want to scare any of you, but I have to say it because my guides are telling me that. This is the Pluto card. This is secrets revealed. This is things from the underworld that you might not see coming. The majority of you, like 98% of you, maybe even 99% of you, this has to do with thought processes and personal beliefs. And you're going to be looking out. You might be rethinking things and reconsidering options about where to go next, because this is the man looking out into the water, holding his staff, turning his back on something that did not work out for him. That's the Death card. And now he's looking out into the abyss and wondering, which direction do you go next? You're reconsidering your next move, Libra. But first, you have to heal yourself. This is an element of rest. This is an element of healing. This is taking time for yourself to go deep with the Hermit, reviewing those personal beliefs of what it is you truly want. That full moon on January 28th, the new moon on January 13th, and January 20th, that is an explosive day. So keep your wits about you and allow yourself to heal. confront the wounds so you can rise above like the phoenix. So the 8th house is all about the death and rebirth process, so you can rise like the phoenix to go the distance in the 9th house. And the 9th house is luck. It's higher ideals. But you got to go through this first. You have to heal yourself. Let's pull one more card for the outcome. Judgment. Okay. Yeah. Decisions are being made to move on. This is also divine guidance. That's Raphael. It's the angel on top. And a decision is being made to move on. You have to let something go, Libra, in order to bring in the arrows of love. And this is what my channel is named after. It's this card. It's the 8, right? We talked a lot about that 8th house. A lot on intimacy, a lot on the death and rebirth process. But you got to go deep. You got to do some reassessment here, okay? Take some time out for yourself. Do some healing and allow things to end. And this has to do with personal beliefs, and this could have something to do with religious upbringing, or it's with your partner. It's one or the other. But you got to make the decision to move on. It's a stressful month, Libra. Everyone's getting difficult hands. It's just the way it works in the beginning of 2021. I'm not beating down on you at all. It's the cards. It's the astrology. We're all going through this. Stay strong. Be the diplomat. Remember, you represented by the scales of harmony. You can find a way through this, but it's time to go deep. Review those emotions, challenge your personal beliefs, and now you come out ahead. But you got to do the healing, okay? This is absolutely necessary. You have to do the healing first. I wish you the best, Libra. Take care of yourself, get plenty of exercise, do some meditation, do that healing work. And if you're looking for a personal reading, my email is in the description box below. I'm also offering a 2-question offer for a nominal fee. So if you have questions, feel free to drop me an email. Like I said, I'll send you a PayPal invoice. It's nominal. I want to help out the collective here because this is going to be a very stressful time in 2021. I wish you the best, Libra. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you next month.